Tati. Perfect. So hello again, everybody, and welcome to our second show. We really appreciate all the new faces that we kind of see. Starting this, it was kind of new for us. We didn't really know how well or how much feedback we were going to get, and the support that you guys are showing is giving us the courage to keep going. So thank y'all so much. We just ask that y'all continue to support us, continue to contribute, and whenever we do like the videos that we're doing, we hope that we get a couple videos. Today this is your time, so definitely please utilize that chat box. Don't be afraid to turn on your cameras, don't be afraid to turn on your microphones, and just talk to us, because that's what we want that feedback, we want that dialogue. And so we have two very special guests here. I was blessed with the opportunity to get an internship with Takeda this summer, and through that experience, I was able to meet two amazing people. One in Dr. Adebayo, who is the senior MSL at Takeda, and as well as the MSL fellow in Mo Guinea. So I want to let them kind of talk about their internship season. Indeed, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and talk about their roles and a little about what they do. Then we can kind of dive into the questions. So without further ado, Dr. Ade, go ahead and take it over.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Very glad to be here today. I'm Adebayo. I'm a little bit different from all of you, I guess, because my training is in, I have a PhD, so I got a research training. However, it was in pharmacology, so I'm constantly having to tell people I'm not a pharmacist. Because the moment I say I have a PhD in pharmacology, they're like, oh, you're a pharmacist? I'm like, no. So maybe I should have just gone ahead and gone to pharmacy school, because it took 6 years to get that PhD. Because maybe you guys, I don't know if you know, but it's less structured, and it's just based on how your research project goes or how much you take on. So, but very happy to be here. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I came to the United States from Nigeria as a college student, and went to the University of Oklahoma. And after that, I did fall in love with research. So I went to upstate New York, SUNY Buffalo, and actually did my thesis work, my research in prostate cancer, looking at chemopreventative agents. And then after that, I went on to a postdoctoral fellowship at the Texas Medical Center,
Howard IP.
In Baylor and Houston Methodist Hospital. So after that whole process, I realized I really wanted a change of course. And I'd always been fascinated by the drug development. So I thought it was time to just kind of take a leap and go into the pharmaceutical industry. So that's what led me. I sort of found out about translational skill sets. I had not done any internships or networked at all. I started doing it just when I started networking just when I thought I wanted a job in pharma, and learned about using what you have to get where you want to go. So I got into industry at AbbVie as a senior medical writer, and since then I've had about 4 different roles in medical affairs, which I'll tell you more about. But I'll stop now and let Mo introduce himself, and then I guess it'll come back to me, right? And I can run the slides. All right, go ahead, Mo.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah, for everybody that doesn't know me, thanks for the introduction, Matt. My name is Mo. I'm a first-year fellow at Takeda. So my fellowship's kind of structured the holistic approach to medical affairs. So the first year primarily focuses on the in-house portion, which is meta information, meta review, and the publications. And the second year is focused on medical strategy and then the MSL role. So yeah, I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. And then after that, I went to college, undergrad as a biology major at Creighton University. I got to play basketball there as well. And then after that, I took a year off, did like a post-bac program. And then I also worked at a lab, like a small biotech company in manufacturing. And then I moved on and went to Chicago, University of Illinois at Chicago. And I just graduated this past May and then started my fellowship in July. So I'm about 3 months into the fellowship. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Anybody can reach out, try to help you guys as much as I can.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. I'll take it back. If one of the hosts could please enable me to share, that would be awesome, because right now I cannot.
We are working on that right now.
Okay, there should be a little,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
All right, now I can. Awesome, thank you. Let me find my PowerPoint. Let's see. Okay. There we go. All right, so I just thought it would be great, like I said, to start this out by just sharing what exactly is medical affairs. I've been in medical affairs going almost 9 years now, I think. Yeah, 9 years, and I feel like it's evolving for me as well. Or maybe it's going 10 years. 9 or 10 years, nine, I think definitely 9, maybe going 10. And it's a highly evolving, highly fast changing field. You know, now we're talking about digital innovations and a lot of cool new things, but you know, a lot of aspects of medical affairs and what it represents are pretty fixed. Can everyone see my screen? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So, you know, a lot of what we do is pretty fixed. There is evolution in how we do it and the approaches to doing it. Like I said, a lot of talk around digital innovations, robotics, even in medical affairs now, or even what's the other, you know, a lot of the new technologies being incorporated into what we do, but, you know, some of them are far reaching and they're not really, I guess, haven't come to, they're not fully mature yet, but, you know, the foundations of medical affairs are pretty set. And I just wanted, you know, and the kind of opportunities I described, it would be the same opportunities that a PhD would have or an MD would have. And that's the beauty of the pharmaceutical industry. And it could be, you know, traditional chemical agents or biologics or medical devices. People with terminal degrees, PharmDs, PhDs, MDs can find diverse careers. You can grow, right? I think that's the other beauty of being in industry. You can grow, you can go from medical affairs and go, you know, sort of develop into marketing or, you know, other aspects of the industry or even project management. So it's just really great and versatile. But medical affairs is definitely a great place to find a home in pharma if you're interested. So, you know, like I said, I wanted to just kind of show you guys what I've done in medical affairs. And a lot of what I've done, I really did script it or write it down. I really almost feel like it's divine, the kind of opportunities I've had. And it's been a lot of fun. Some of the opportunities I've had, I actually did not choose it. It was sort of like circumstantial, but in hindsight, I really do believe nothing is random. And, you know, sometimes it's like things fall into your lap that you didn't even ask for, but in the grand scheme of things, and you sort of look like the quilt of your life, it is beautiful. And you're like, oh, that's really nice. And you find that you can draw from those experiences later on in life or in other careers that you choose. And that's been the story for me. So like I said, when I left academia, working in a research lab, and I chose to join industry, I started as a senior medical writer. And, you know, I got to support nephrology, renal products, and immunology, gastroenterology, Humira at AbbVie. And then after that, I got interested in medical strategy and I started asking questions. And a lot of things I learned as I went, you know, but I think it's great that you guys, the Pharma Collective, and those that have joined tonight, that you've taken the step to start learning now, because I really don't feel like I took that approach when I was starting out. So I went into medical strategy and global medical affairs, strategic planning, which really is, what do we want to do? What do we want 2022 to look like? We start to plan it in 2021. What kind of activities? How do we want to use our budget? And how do we support all the different medical affairs functions? So strategy sort of sets the tone and puts sort of like a script together that all the other medical affairs functions will follow. And I'll talk a little bit more about all the different opportunities under medical affairs. And then circumstances changed and I had to leave the company where I was. So I went into an agency role. I joined the medical communications agency, and it was a little bit of a hybrid between my publications experience and medical communications in that role. And I supported multiple therapeutic areas because it was agency. But I kind of found that really wasn't a good fit for me, and I wanted to be back in pharma. So I got back into pharma in field medical affairs as a medical science liaison, supporting diabetes. And from there, I went back to Takeda, which is where I am right now. I'm at Takeda Pharmaceuticals, and I support rare diseases as a medical science liaison. And I've grown in that role, and now I'm a senior medical science liaison. So that's just me in a nutshell. And, you know, I just looked around because I'm speaking to a pharmacy student audience to look at what is out there that sort of sets the tone on why you should even care about this topic. And I'm glad Milka mentioned this, the Industry Pharmacist Organization, IPHO. And I guess you guys are very familiar with IPHO. And they do put out a publication every year, it looks like. And there was a 2021 report that I pulled from 2020-21 report. So I'm going to share from that. And, you know, you guys are well aware of this organization and its mission to help advance the careers of industry pharmacists. So this is the publication I wanted to reference. This is a 2020-2021 Industry Fellowship Report. And I just wanted to use this to just show you guys, you know, maybe why you should pay attention. And not that pharmacy, medical affairs is the only career you can pursue, but it's one option to think about. And you really have to take a self-assessment of yourself. What do you want? Do you want to be in academia or do you want to be in industry? And within industry, there are multiple opportunities available to you, and medical affairs is one of them. And as this slide shows here, medical affairs is actually one of the fastest growing. It's one of the most common fellowships for PharmDs like yourself, and it's fast growing, as this next slide will show. This is a 7-year trend in fellowship positions for PharmDs in industry, and you can see for medical affairs has tripled in the last 7 years from when they started to take this report in 2014. And even from 2019, 2020 to 2021, 40% growth. You know, it's like, it's rapidly growing. The opportunities are available to students like you, professionals like you to explore in industry. And like I said, it's not the only one. So you really have to find what's the best fit for yourself. And hopefully when I share a couple more slides, it gives you a better idea depending on where you are in terms of exposure. I grabbed the slides, I have to say, I thought they were a great representation. So I just grabbed them off of a YouTube video, which I did reference here. Happy to share the slides. Nothing belongs to me. I just kind of pulled resources together. And what is medical affairs? And really, what we are the function in industry that is responsible for it. It's almost like a bridge. We're a bridge between research and development. So when you think about the pharmaceutical drug development pipeline, we've got drug discovery. You have pharmacists or biologists who are just doing preclinical work, right? In cells, in animals. It can be pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics. And then you go to human research, clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then it could be phase 3B. And then you have regulatory, right? They negotiate with the government, with the FDA or the EMA in Europe or in Japan, whatever country, whatever the regulatory agencies in a country. And medical affairs is a bridge between those functions and the patient, the physicians, or even pharmacists, nurses, medical community, and commercial. We are sort of like the bridge. We highly interact with clinical development. Now the medical affairs function is fast evolving. Before clinical research, clinical development, we sort of hand over the drug development program to medical affairs once they've taken it to a certain stage. But medical affairs is actually now being pulled in even earlier into earlier stages of development, because there's a need to understand what the product is even before later on when you're ready to launch it or market the product. So, that the role is evolving, but we're like a bridge. We're external facing. We interact with patients, we interact with the medical community, patient advocacy group community, engagement, and with our commercial colleagues. Commercial is responsible for selling. They're responsible for setting the strategy for getting the product into the market. Then there's market access that's responsible for pricing. So medical affairs is sort of like the scientific medical organization that speaks the language of both the basic science researchers, the clinical development people, and also we have to work with commercial and also work with the medical community. So what do we do? We engage, right? We engage with patients, patient advocacy groups, with physicians, could be DOs, MDs, pharmacists, depending on the role. When I supported diabetes, pharmacists were they were big partners for us because depending on the state, right? You have the CDEs, certified diabetes educators, and pharmacists. I think in like California and certain states, pharmacists can actually manage patients all by themselves. So those are big stakeholders for us in diabetes. So it just depends on the therapeutic area you're handling. So we engage with external community. We also engage internally with our commercial colleagues, with our clinical development colleagues, scientific exchange. We get information, we engage with the data, we engage based on the disease state, and we have discussions, scientific discussions with medical community or even internally. And we exchange ideas, we bring back ideas, which we call insights. We educate, that's a big part of the role in medical affairs. We educate the medical professionals or pharmacists, nurses on how to use our products, how to administer our products. Could be IV access issues or subcutaneous or oral, depending on the area, right? Or gene therapy now is another fast evolving area. So we educate people on the disease area, on the drugs. What is our clinical data? And we gather insights also on what the experience is in practice. We generate data as well. So besides the original data that leads to a product being marketed, the NDA, right, new drug application, and the subsequent approval by a regulatory agency, we generate new data. So we're responsible for life cycle management and post-approval studies. So once a product is approved, there are more studies that have to be done. The regulatory agency could have additional questions, and they could approve a product and still require post-approval studies. We're constantly learning from the medical community, and that might require that we do more additional clinical research. We also inform, that's the role of medical information. The medical affairs handles product inquiries, medical inquiries about products that we have, and even safety, right? Safety, we gather information about safety, and we inform providers about the safety of our products. And this is just some of the, what do you need if you wanted to go into medical affairs? And not that you have to have it, but what are the key competencies that you'd be looking to develop, either during your PharmD training, through, experience, rotations, or like Mo said, through a fellowship. You would need for scientific acumen on the therapeutic area, the disease state, the product, the clinical trials data, understanding healthcare systems, and medical strategy. What do we want to do? Which audience do we want to target? Interpersonal skills, really big, especially in the external facing role like medical science liaison. Communication skills are key, verbal and written communication skills, being able to present before audiences, the data in a non-biased way. We talk about fair and balanced, benefit risk ratio and fair and balanced presentation of data. You've got to be collaborative in a medical affairs role. You've got to collaborate internally with internal cross-functional partners, and also externally with the medical community. Relationship management is key, and also emotional intelligence, right? Understanding what the customer needs, being able to elevate that, sometimes even beyond what the company wants. And in the company, I think you need to understand the corporate culture and values of the company you're going into, understand the industry, right? Joining IPHO, pharma, and a lot of industry associations out there. So what are the different functions? And this can change. I do have to caution that depending on the company where you're at, Takeda is a big company, AbbVie, Abbott, those are huge companies. Novartis, Sanofi, Regeneron, big companies, but they're also medium and small pharma. So these roles can look different. And there are pluses and minuses to joining small, medium pharma versus large pharma. I've never been in small pharma besides the agency I joined, but I've heard that one of the advantages of joining a smaller company is you actually get a lot of these experiences under your belt in one role. You could be a medical science liaison in a small company, and you sort of function as a medical director, and you'll be setting strategy. You could be doing medical communications and a lot of other things, maybe publications as well. But in larger companies, it's usually more segmented, and you sort of have more ownership over what you do, and you own your space. So it just depends on what you want and what you're looking to get, the experience, or what opportunity becomes available to you. So these are some of the functions: medical publications, medical information, medical review, field medical affairs or medical science liaison, role, communications, project management and operations, medical research, and that can be merged into like the strategy role. It just depends. There's medical strategy and health economics and outcomes research. Like at Takeda, it sits under medical affairs. In some companies, HEOR will sit separately by itself. So things can look different depending on the company, like I said. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to close with this. It's really about purpose. I'm really big on that. Purpose. What do you want? You got to identify that, and as you explore your career options. And I just remember what my graduate school mentor used to tell me, and I hold on to that, and I share that with a lot of people. That at the end of the day, whatever role or career path you choose, you want to be able to say, I love what I do, and I'm just glad I get paid to do it. I really think this is the ultimate. Whether you choose to go into retail pharmacy or clinical pharmacy or whatever options, or working for the payer insurance company, or you choose pharma or medical affairs, you want to find fulfillment in what you do. And finally, I want to emphasize, I shared a little bit about my experience of not networking. Your network is your net worth. You want to start now. And I'm just so glad about this co-op that you have here. Start networking, join groups, join, industry groups as a student. Sometimes you get to attend meetings for free or at a very discounted rate because you are a student. So take advantage of that. Meet people, make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. And there's this old, African proverb. I hope it is an African proverb. I've kind of read that it may not be, but it's a great quote anyway. When you run alone, you run fast. When you run together, you run far. There is power in networking. While you're doing that, you're building, you're identifying mentors and potentially sponsors, people who can really make a difference in your career, whatever you decide to do. So I just wanted to leave you with that. And I'll stop right there. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Ajibade. That was very helpful. And we really appreciate you giving us a background as to what medical affairs is. If possible, do you mind switching the hosting capabilities to myself? And then from that, we did have a bunch of questions that were submitted by some of our collective members. So we just wanted to now make this into a conversation and go and ask these questions and see what you, as well as Mo, thinks about everything. So the first question is, how do you feel you are making a difference within medical affairs?
Thank you. I'll be glad to go, and I'll take that first. I think really it's the impact that you have externally. So you're not just, I shared my background. I started in a lab, and many times I was basic research as well. So many times it's easy to lose focus of what you're doing. What does it mean? And who cares, right? It's my project. But when you're medical affairs, like I talked about the company culture and values. Takeda and many companies now talk about the patient being at the center, patient centricity, patient centeredness. And I really feel like we put our money where our mouth is, at least in the company that I work in, where the patient is always at the center. My role is external facing, and many medical affairs roles are. You're serving physicians, you're serving healthcare professionals who serve the patients. You have a pulse on what's going on in their practice. You're able to bring that back. So when we're studying strategy on what we're going to do and how we're going to budget dollars or what activities we're going to sponsor for the next year, we're not doing that in a vacuum. It's sort of an ecosystem, right? We know what the data says. We understand the data and the product, but then we're shopping that almost, right? We're engaging and we're partnering with external stakeholders, key opinion leaders, thought leaders, community physicians or community providers, nurse practitioners, and we understand what their pain points are. What does a competitive landscape look like? And that informs what kind of data we may want to generate, what kind of studies we want to do. Maybe we need to do a medical communications event at a pharmacy congress, meeting or conference, because we're learning that pharmacists really don't understand when, how this product is prescribed or when it should be prescribed, things like that. So, we're not operating in a vacuum. We're very external facing. We understand what's going on externally, and we use that to inform our strategy and our activities in the corner. So I really love that about, being in medical affairs.
Thank you. And I think we have our next question.
I thought we was going to allow Mo to answer your first question also.
Oh, yes. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're good. No, so I'll kind of echo a little bit of what you said. Pretty much every role is important, and it kind of, once you get into pharma and understand the specific roles and what goes into what you're doing, you kind of understand how your role impacts the next person and eventually impacts the patient. So I think you just have to choose something that you really enjoy, and that takes a little bit of time to figure out. Obviously, I'm still learning myself. I narrowed it down to medical affairs, but my fellowship's kind of given me a taste since I didn't have prior pharma experience, but whether that's med affairs, regulatory, whatever you do choose, once you pick that, I feel like you can understand like your role and understand like the impact you make based on learning about it. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, thank you. So we're just gonna move on to the next question real quick. And Mo, you could probably start off with this one. So what are some challenges that you face in your position?
So I would say starting off, just the learning curve from transitioning from being a student to actually being in the workforce and a part of a team. Obviously, I worked on teams before in school, but I guess in the fellowship, it's a little more responsibility, and you kind of determine how much you get out of the fellowship, whether that's asking for projects or inquiring about things in meetings and stuff. So I'm pretty much like a sponge and there to learn from the people that have more experience. So just adjusting to that has just been a little bit of a challenge, but obviously from my experience, anything that's new is always going to be a little difficult to start, but those are like the main challenges that I've been experiencing so far.
Thank you. And I know, Dr. Ade, you've been in your position for a while, but I know there's still some challenges you face. So if you could portray those challenges for us, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. I would definitely have to say in this moment, there are challenges that are unique to the pandemic. You know, being in an external facing role where customer engagement and interactions, communications is key. You know, getting those opportunities and navigating that during the pandemic can be challenging. We've definitely embraced technology and virtual engagement more than we ever would think. Like when I was in my diabetes role at Salix Pharmaceuticals, I never would even schedule like a Zoom call or Microsoft Teams call. We just got on the plane, right? You would plan meetings to go out and meet with, you know, healthcare professionals. But now I'm very comfortable navigating and doing virtual meetings, as long as, you know, you can gather the necessary insights, be of value. We talk about value, right? If someone's giving you their time, which is money, how do I bring value to them? So navigating that it's really competitive, right? You've got Takeda, and we've got our team of MSLs in multiple therapeutic areas, and you've got many other companies out there. And depending on the disease area, oncology, you know, I'm in the allergy immunology space now. There are a lot of companies that are invested in the same area, and the demand for the time of the doctors can be stiff at times. You got to be creative. You got to almost create opportunity for yourself. Sometimes, you know, maybe attending conferences to get FaceTime with people. If you can't do that over video, or the offices or the institutions may be shut down because of the pandemic, and they may not be allowing visitors in. So it's some of those things, just the competitiveness and the demand for our customers' time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then I think we have a question from a member in the audience, Mr. Justin Frederick. If you want to just say where you're coming from, what school you represent, and then you can go ahead and ask your question.
All right, awesome. Yes, so thank you, Dr. Ajibade. Oh, did I probably butcher that name? Ajibade? Yes, awesome. I'm good at this. Yes, my name is Justin Frederick. I'm actually a third-year pharmacy student from High Point University. And honestly, before I even get started, I just wanted to really thank both you and Mo for taking the time out of your day to talk to us students. And thank you to the Pharma Collective for even arranging this. Medical affairs and industry pharmacy is just not talked about enough. So whenever I hear about this kind of thing, I'm just like, yes, let's talk about this more. But on to my question, I actually have a question for both you and Mo regarding what attracted you to Takeda.
I'm happy to go first. So it's a culture. I think there's a large emphasis on rare diseases. So I support rare diseases at the moment. And then the teams, the culture that's patient-centered and also people-focused. So, you know, we've got our company values: patient, trust, reputation, business. And, you know, and we talk about, you know, not just serving the external community, but the company really does, I think, put its money where its mouth is in terms of also investing in the people, creating opportunities, encouraging us to develop ourselves, and a lot of resources to do that. And HR sets that tone. We have quality conversations. You have to not just develop your performance goals for the year, but we also have our individual development goals. What do you want to learn? The expectation is not that you're in medical affairs and you should be there for the next 20 years. If you have other interests, if you actually really think you want to cross over into marketing or commercial, there are opportunities and there are programs in the company that you can get into to get exposure to other units in the company. So I like that, that I'm able to serve people, put the patient at the center, and at the same time, I'm developing myself and there are resources to do that.
Yeah, and I would echo that, to be honest. So I've only been there for 3 months, but just from what I've experienced, it's very patient first. And like my preceptors that I've talked to are pretty open to what I want to do and how I want to shift my career and like what my priorities are. So whether that is MSL, whether that is MedInfo, they're very supportive in helping me to get to those goals. And I think that's something that's very important. And also the diversity at Takeda is something that really brought me towards them. I haven't really been to a lot of companies, so I can't really speak on all that, but just from what I've seen and when I was interviewing and talking to people and things like that, there's just a vast array of diverse groups of people, which is something that I think is important for a company to get those different opinions so that we can eventually help different patient populations.
Thank you both. Thank you so much.
All right, let me go ahead and ask my question. Dr. Ajibade, you did mention earlier you're working for an agency. How does that differ from working for a pharmaceutical company, and why was it not for you?
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. I would say the biggest difference is it's more client focused. So we just talked about being patient focused. Now, it's more client focused, which, they're usually smaller. They vary in size. Some are larger and some are smaller. So it just depends where you go. They're the big New York ones and, the small ones. This was in the Chicago suburbs. So it's really client focused. So I'll talk about the largest pro and the largest con from my perspective. I think the biggest, let me start with the positive. I'm the glasses half full person. The biggest pro I really think is if you're starting out and you really didn't, maybe you got onto this later on and you thought, whoa, I really think I want to get exposure to pharma, and you're not getting opportunities to go into a maybe medium or large company and get an agency opportunity, you would get a lot of exposure to multiple therapeutic areas. So usually in a larger company, you're like in oncology. And even within oncology, your team is maybe doing pancreatic cancer. And then even within pancreatic cancer, depending on how large the space is, you may actually just be handling, they may have multiple assets, right? They may have like maybe 2 marketed products of pancreatic cancer and maybe 3 pipeline products. So pipeline is, they haven't launched it. It's still in development. You may just be on one product, right? You may just be on a team that's just handling one product. It's not always like that. It just depends on the need and how busy that space is. So you can be very focused when you're in large pharma, not just on a disease area, but also maybe even on a product. But when you're in an agency setting, it's client driven. So you do whatever business comes in is what you're doing. So if it's Alzheimer's today or this week, we're all going to get on the Alzheimer's project. And you're going to learn very quickly. You're going to read really fast and understand the client's need. It's centered around the client and delivering what the client wants. It's very fast paced, which is great, right? You learn to work under pressure, and you have to be perfect, because the next business may depend on the perfection of the current one. So that's it. What the con I think really is the lack of focus. So it's a plus and it can be a con as well. You're constantly changing. Next week could be opioids, pain management, and the following week, we're planning a congress for hepatology for another company. So having to also constantly switching from one client to the other, understanding the client's needs, their therapeutic area. So you never, I say you're a jack of all trades and master of none, is I would kind of summarize, which could be a plus for someone who's learning. You get a broad range of experiences, but then you can sort of also feel like lost.
I can speak to, I can speak a little bit too. I had a 6-week rotation with like a vendor as well. So I would agree with a lot of things she said. I think it is a great learning experience and it's good foot in the door as well. It kind of just depends on what you're looking for. Obviously at the companies, you're working with specific products and specific therapeutic areas that you kind of get to see the life cycle and see like your work, because these projects could take years or months to years. So you kind of get to see the whole process. Whereas working for a vendor, it's like, we need you to do this for us right now. So you do that for about 2 weeks and you send that off to them and then you're helping somebody else out. So you're doing bits of pharma, but you don't really get to see like the life cycle of what happens with your work, if that makes any sense.
No, it definitely does. That's actually what I'll be going into my next role. So thank you for letting me know. I'm more prepared now.
And then, just to add, Milka, since you're going into that kind of role, I think what I'm thinking next, what can you do? How can you make the most of that role? No one stops you from connecting with clients on LinkedIn, right? We talked about relationship building. You can bridge a little bit of that gap and build relationships with people. You don't have to center your whole life around the company or the agency. You can build bridges by yourself, like, hey, John, I really enjoy working on this project. Would you like to do virtual coffee? That's your thing, your networking. And no one stops you. And I really think maybe I didn't maximize on that. Maybe I was just I was too busy missing pharma. But I really think you can create opportunity for yourself wherever you are. So that would be my advice for you.
I love that. Thank you so much. I will definitely do that.
Mm-hmm.
Same. Definitely love the responses and the answers to these questions. I had another question, but it looks like Kim has a similar question that I had. So Kim, I'm going to ask you to come off mute, introduce yourself, let us know where you're coming from, and then ask your question as well.
Well, hello. I'm sorry I'm not dressed up a little bit more. I'm in my comfies working on a presentation for tomorrow, but I'm a 4th-year student coming from UNC. I've been pretty clinically focused up until recently, so I'm wondering if you could comment on getting to an MSL role either through a clinical route or with the fellowship route.
Yeah, happy to go on that one. I have found people, I have a lot of colleagues whose background in PharmD. I would say mostly it's PharmDs and PhDs and then few MDs. You can come into an MSL role or even any other role from anywhere, honestly, as long as you have the degree. I think, I talked about that networking piece. I have been in pharma, I said, for 9 years. I've seen shocking things. I'll just tell you guys. The most qualified person on paper, like if you just were linear and you listed, I've done this, does not always get the promotions or the opportunity. Networking is huge. It helps to position you. So I really think what I would do if I were you, I have a colleague, it's so funny, I was in upstate New York. So I live in the Philadelphia area, but I go all the way east up to upstate New York. And my colleague that I was traveling with last week, I'm happy to connect you with her actually, if you'd like. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I can drop my link. She actually came from a clinical pharmacy role. So she's a PharmD. And we were just chatting and she came from a clinical pharmacy. She thought she was burnt out. She loved it and she loved our patients and our team, but she said she was burnt out and she moved over. So I asked her how she did it. She networked. She had former friends, colleagues who were at AstraZeneca and other companies, and she learned from them. And she's still learning from them till today. She was actually sharing a story with me about a conference she wanted to attend, a local conference in New Jersey, and it was really expensive. And a friend from AstraZeneca sent her a template on what she needed to email to her manager to go. So my other colleague was told by his manager, he can't go, but she went. I'm just telling you like real life examples of networking and building a network. And it can make all the difference. There are people who have 0 years, like it's great Mo's doing a fellowship and Matthew did an internship in our company, but there are people who didn't do any of that. They were in retail pharmacy and they were burnt out and they were like, I want out. And they had the right network and people like me. I had 0 experience. I did no internships and I was burnt out in the lab. And it was through networking. I reached out to former, my alumni from grad school and they started teaching me and one person connected me with the other. It was through a third-party connection I got my first role in pharma. So don't be discouraged, even if you haven't done internships or fellowships, but start now, build a network and start asking people, what do I need to do? You need to write your resume in a certain way to attract, recruiters or even hiring managers. the job description is written for a purpose. You got to take it. There's a software called, an app online called Job Scan. I think that's what it's called. You take a job description and you take your resume and you it scans it and it tells you how much of a match it is. Because there's certain keywords, like if you apply for MSO, you've got to talk about relationship, communication skills, that you're a strong written and oral communicator, that you've got strong presentation skills. You've got to present. So if you're an MSO interview, you've got to do a short clinical presentation, because it's such a core skill competency that they can hire you. So drawing on all of that, if you've been part of Pharma Collective or any student organizations that you've run or community group, you want to talk about that you maybe like the Girl Scout and you did presentations, things like that. And you use that, you leverage what you have to get into where you want to go. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, thank you. That was very helpful.
Sure. And I'm happy to connect you with a couple of pharmacists that I know. It would be great to talk to. You can reach out.
And I can follow up on that a little bit too. So like she said, the networking thing is key. I have seen a lot of people who have been in clinical pharmacy for a while, and they just jump right into pharma just because they knew people and had the opportunity. And I myself, I didn't really decide I wanted to hop into industry till probably early in my P4 year. So I had like a 3-year summer internship at a hospital. So I was mainly inpatient and kind of just made the switch. So it's definitely doable. It just kind of depends on how you want your career to go. If you want to start off clinically, that's okay. And then if you want to switch over, if you want to jump right into pharma right away. So you just kind of have to be honest with yourself and just see what you want. But it's very doable, especially I didn't have any previous pharma experience, and I still landed a fellowship. So you just have to talk to the right people, understand what's going on, and understand what you want. So.
Definitely appreciate that response, y'all, because I was actually very curious on that question as well. And I feel like that question is a question that a lot of students have trying to go into pharma, like they don't really know the best way to get in. So I think it's important that question was brought up. I do have another one. Ade, you kind of spoke about some of the skills needed about like presenting and also other soft skills. And this question is definitely to Mo as well. But knowing all that you all know now, what do you think that students can be doing now to be intentional on actually gaining these skills to get that career in medical affairs?
Happy to go first. I would say identify what you want. Because, there are people who are happy in clinical pharmacy or retail pharmacy or whatever, or even being a pharmacy professor, right? Academia. So first step, I would say, I talked about that purpose. Like what makes me, where do I find fulfillment? Where it's almost like, I'm not even working. I love this so much, So take an inventory of yourself. Really, it's almost like doing a personal SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, threats, and just kind of take a real inventory, like not doing what other people are doing just because, oh, Matthew's going to pharma, I'm going to go too, right? Identifying what you really enjoy and what you want to do. And then start networking. So, and if you don't know, I love that, like most fellowship, and that was actually, it came up in our IPHO report. Some of those fellowship will let you rotate in different functions. Or, if you got started early enough, I know you guys are mostly third year. If you even did internships or summer rotations or internships, but start building towards that. And if you don't know, it's okay. Start networking. You can join. Like I said, you can go to some of these congresses, conferences for free sometimes, or even at very discounted rates as a student, and take advantage of that. You can get a large exposure. There are HEOR, AMCP, and you can kind of get that broad exposure to different groups or different functions and different careers while doing that. LinkedIn is a great resource. A lot of these organizations are on LinkedIn. It's free, right? LinkedIn is it's free. It's the only, it's the greatest resource that's free, where you can connect with the whole world. Even you can connect with people in Amsterdam. So, join those LinkedIn groups, reach out to people, or a friend of a friend. If somebody knows someone, look at the networks in LinkedIn. Oh, I know this person, and then reach out to them. Like, would you mind introducing me to this person in your network? Because many times we're inundated on LinkedIn as well. Like recruiters are constantly reaching out. So I may not respond on LinkedIn, but if someone I know reaches out and says, please, can you please mentor my friend? Yeah, I'm more likely to. So use people, we call them warm connections, warm introductions. So forums like this, like if you reach out to me and you said, Ade, I heard you on the Pharma Collective, I'm highly 99% likely to reply you. Then if it was a random, someone hitting me up on my LinkedIn inbox. So, so take advantage. I'm going back to networking because it really does work. I got my first breakthrough networking. Join industry groups. If you still have the opportunity to do the internships or the rotations and fellowships as well. So I hope that helps. So I'll let Mo address this as well, because like I said, he's still in the grind.
Yeah, so I would follow up on that. The networking is the biggest part as far as like understanding what goes on. At least when I was in you guys' shoes, that's something that I didn't really do as much in my P3 year, and I started doing my P4 year. It wasn't too late, but it's just I had to kind of double time and just understand the roles and understand like what was a good fit for me. And then obviously as you're going through your rotations, I think those are good opportunities to start practicing and preparing yourself for the fellowships in real world. Those journal clubs and those presentations that you're doing, take those really seriously and just use them as practice, because I think that that's what prepared me the most for my like final round interviews and things like that. Already having experience and getting that feedback from like real life pharmacists and other people in the field that care about your career and things like that. So I would just use everything, or think about the things that you were doing during school and not just kind of going through the motions, but understanding like why you're doing it and what could apply to the career that you want. So.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just add quickly before we move on. My former pastor, when I was in Chicago area, used to say, you're only one person. He was a very confident man. So he was like, you're only one person from anyone you want to meet. Because I had this big idea about an event I wanted to do. And he's like, yeah, I could get you the governor. We can get Oprah. Because my pastor is just really confident. And he was like, you're only one person away from anyone you want to meet. And I thought he was just like, like I said, he's a very confident man. But I'm actually finding that to be really, really true. It's a really small world. Leverage the ones around you. And before you know it, you're meeting people you never thought you would meet through that just one connection, who's willing to help you and pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want you. Ask people to review your resume. Like literally someone took me under their wings. It was a third-party connection. I reached out to my alumni, one of my seniors from grad school when I was studying for my PhD. And she linked me up with a friend who worked at AbbVie. And this person like literally became mother hen. She took my resume. She coached me on how to interview. She like shared interview like prep questions, like not the real ones, but these are the kind of things they're gonna ask you. This is how you answer. And I didn't make anything up, but she taught me how to sort of harness what I had. If she didn't coach me, I would have not spoken. Like there's certain words you want to use. And if an insider doesn't tell you, like you show up and have all the goods, but you're not, you're not showing it. You're not representing yourself very well because you just didn't know. So coaching is key. And like I said, it's not always the best on paper candidate who gets the job. It's the person who's gotten the most help. They got the most inside information many times. So we got to be wise and leverage. We have to help each other.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ade and Mo. We, on behalf of the collective, want to thank you so much for volunteering your time today just to speak with us and to spread knowledge. I've learned so much. I'm sure that everyone else was able to learn a great deal. And I think what was really unique was that you guys were able to keep it very authentic, and for us to really learn these questions, learn these aspects about medical affairs that we typically can't find on a website or things like that. So we really appreciate that. So also thank you to all of our Pharma Collective members for joining in today. We really appreciate you all. We know that you guys are busy with rotations, with classes, with working, and so many other things. So thank you for spending this hour with us. We really appreciate it. Just wanted to give you a small I guess, intro as to what we're going to be doing in October. For October, we're going to be starting our internship series. So the first thing that I want to do is to give you guys this link, and it's just to our LinkedIn, and it's the post that we have where we really want to hear from those who have had internships in industry so that we can help share these resources with other student pharmacists, especially those who have had internship experience. We know, or who have applied, we know how hard it is to try to get these experiences. So it's great to share the wealth. It's great for people to see the experiences that you've had. So if you could take a look at that, and if you have not completed an internship, if you know someone who has, feel free to spread that link to them as well. So, and on top of that, with the internship videos, we're also going to be having some internship webinars, and we're also going to be giving some helpful hints and tricks that you guys can use and start preparing for internship season, because it is fastly approaching. So we just want to say thank you so much. And if we can all give a virtual round of applause for our lovely guest. So thank you so much for coming. And if you guys have any questions or any comments, we will stick around for a little bit. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Ade. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is great.
Yes, thank you so much. Your time has been valued by all of us. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Please connect. Feel free to
Yeah, no
connect on
problem.
LinkedIn.
Definitely will. And I hope everyone
Any
else
other
does
questions?
too.
Yeah. Thank you, Mo.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. Happy to help.
Sure. All right. I guess everyone's logging off. Do you guys still need us?
Free
All
to
right.
go. Thank you.
All right. Reach out anytime, guys. Take care, and I wish you all the best as you go along in your pharmacy school career and your eventual career that you'll have.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Likewise.
Yes.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good
Good night.
night.
Take it easy.